Okay, this is Eli Ochiltree of the SnoKing Beekeepers Association. This is the monthly meeting on April 19th, Wednesday. Wednesday. Thanks, everybody, for coming. We're going to start with announcements. I'll try not to repeat the newsletter too much. And make sure you're getting the newsletter out of your junk or spam folder because it tends to go in there, because we're now sending it out to about 700 people on our list. And actually half of you, thank you, are clicking on it, which is a really good return rate. So I'm not actually doing a 45-minute presentation. I will run through the announcements, go to the Queen timeline, and either Joe Dunsire, who did the nuke installation video and did a wonderful job on it, either he'll come and we'll have him kind of talk a little about his video, because it's great. It really is good. Not just for someone who wants to install a nuke, but someone who wants to help someone else install a nuke. Mentoring and helping each other. And it's kind of neat to look at what you already know. I tell people in the apprentice class, really important to give yourself credit for what you already know, and you can actually start helping people now. Okay, get your screen sharing ready. Use chat for comments, links. I mentioned something, and quite often I count on everybody else to go get it, like the newsletter link. If somebody wants to put that. Facebook discussion group, it's a closed group. If you're not on it, email me and I'll help you get on it if you don't know how to get on it. So we'll do our announcements. The website is getting better. The calendar isn't completely updated on the Hive sites and the classes, but it's getting better. You can find past newsletters on the snokingBKA.org, or if you like typing out snokingbeekeepers.org, you can do that too. Same website. The nuke package supplier list. Most of you have your bees, but sometimes you go, that last hive didn't make it. I think I'd like to spend the money now or get the queen. And quite often, these nuke package suppliers order extra queens. And now you can start to get them, the queen that you couldn't get earlier in the season. Social events are on hold. We were going to get that started at St. Thomas Greek Orthodox Church, which is right on the line of Lake Stevens and Snohomish. It is coming, but yes, it's on hold till May. Hive sites have started up. The one last week was great. I think we had 5 people show up, but that was great because we had time to go through OAV, equipment, personal protection, the bee suits, anything that we want to talk about. We couldn't open the hives because it was so cold. This Saturday, that was at Maltby, my place, and this Saturday, the hive site is really at a member's house. Maria Berijan, I didn't put her email up here. If she's on here, if not, she put her email and contact information on the Facebook discussion group, or you can email me. April 22nd is a big pickup day. A lot of people are picking up their nukes, right? Especially from Casey Thompson, who brings them, who brings them over from the east side of the Cascades, and he does a one-time truckload. I think he sold out, but you could always check with him. It was very reasonable, the price for the nukes. It was like $170. And everybody picks up on the 22nd. So it's either 1 or 2 o'clock. If Maria's in here, maybe she'll put in on the chat. Okay, maybe she'll mention there. The 29th after that. So this Saturday, we're going to go to her house, check with her. I may go help with parking or questions or whatever. It's a lot of fun to do a nuke install with other people. Then the Saturday after that, we'll do smokers if we can't open the hives. But I think by then we may finally get warm enough to have a hive inspection. The weatherman is promising where I am, my windy ridge. I know I complain about 476 feet with the wind, and it's still freezing up here at nights. It's still going below freezing. Okay. they're promising that we're going to hit the high 50s and 60s, even 60 in this next week. So I'm really hopeful that we're going to do a hive inspection. If not, bring your smokers. We'll practice lighting them. We can go through a lot of equipment. It's amazing what we can go through, talking about apiary placement, the forage we see in the area. There's a lot you can do. Meeting other beekeepers is really important. May, I think we're going to be good. And I think we're going to be able to get this queen project at least going. Figuring how old the queens have to be to mate. The weather has got to be better. This is just, we can cover a lot. Oh, how to stack your hive. I'm still insulating and keeping insulation above my liquid feed. It is so cold here. The bees can't take the liquid feed every day. I'm feeding both liquid and dry. They're picking a la carte. Hive tools, really important. We can go through hive tools and actually damage that people do their hives by using their hive tools wrong. Classes. I know it's already in the newsletter and I'm getting it on the calendar. Tonight, I will not go to sleep until I finish getting James Fuchs, journeyman candidate, is going to teach the next July class. Gina had a wonderful time teaching the last beginner class before the one that we're doing right now. She had a wonderful time. Our journeymen, up and coming journeymen, are enjoying it. And so are the beginners. Apprentice is ongoing. If you need to get into an apprentice class so that your service counts this summer, call, okay? Call or text me and we'll figure something out. If it isn't here, maybe I don't know of another class right now, but we'll work on it. Beginner can be challenged. Apprentice, you really should be part of a class. Journeyman, because people are working towards their journeyman, they can do their service, they can do a lot of things, but you eventually have to take the class. That class will start September 11th. And we're really hoping that Master Beekeeper program is coming maybe at the beginning of 2024. If any of these levels you have done, and you may have done them in SnoKing, or you may have done them with another club, or you did them years ago. And I have people that say, hey, I took apprentice like 5 years ago and they can't get another certificate. Just come audit. If you feel like it, pay the $25 dues to join for the year, but I can put you on the weekly class email list. It doesn't cost us anything. We're not paying for your certificate unless you need a manual. Then you have to pay for the class. But come on and audit. And it actually helps to have people who are a little more experienced in a class. So you're more than welcome to do that. I mentioned Gina had a great time teaching beginner. She has started a beginner discussion group for people who are going through their first year, maybe their second year, and they want to share about their hives. What's working? What's not working? What kind of feeder worked? What did their bees do that was really great or really kind of puzzling? And we try to give you a chance at monthly meetings, but I know it's hard to speak up when people start talking about more advanced things. And the journeyman discussion group is going to be open in September. We're going to start. Anybody who's taken the journeyman academic class or is taking it. And that's why I want to wait till September to start, and we can pick up some more people. We'll start on Zoom. There are several ways that people who have taken or are taking journeyman, maybe working on their certification or trying to implement everything they learned. There are several ways to do it. And Zoom, I know we're so zoomed out, but there's also the idea of a website blog where you can respond, not like the blog I have on the SnoKing website. Sorry, it's not interactive. I just put something on there and post you bee tips and trivia or something or jokes. But you can do another type of blog, and SnoKing would be happy to host that if that's what people want, or if they want to try a closed discussion group like the SnoKing one for people west of the mountains. This time it would be for people who are taking or have taken just the academic part of journeyman. And just so we can have better discussions and we can not feel rude if we expect people to know things like how to basically set up a hive. No insult to beginners. The other thing a group like that can do is have what we used to call in research a journal club. And a journal club would have one topic each time. And usually they had refreshments and such. It was mostly social. But the excuse to get together was you'd pick a topic. For example, bee vaccines. Somebody would take charge of reading the paper on bee vaccines, and they would send out the paper to everyone else. And then they'd get up and they'd say, I think it means this, this, and this. And this is what I got out of the paper. Summarize it, and people could discuss it. And then we could discuss anything else we wanted to. So that journal club might be something people are interested in, but I won't know until we start meeting in September. I'm flexible. I like journal club a lot, but I don't know how people feel about that. One thing in announcements I have to cover is we have some opportunities to do some service. And it comes up, and here's one in Sultan, a preschool teacher. She says she really wants to talk about bees and plants, and she only needs like half an hour at the most. This is, if you haven't done this, this is like wear your bee suit. I'm a beekeeper and I help take care of the bees. I hope you all take care of bees too. And we don't spray bad chemicals, and bees are really important. Do you like apples and oranges and fruits? And yeah, you owe those to bees. Okay, and I have some possible pictures. I've done it. It's really fun. Is there anybody that's sort of in the Sultan area or wouldn't mind driving out there to do this? Let me know. It is fun. And sometimes your kids are this age and it's a really good opportunity for you, or you're hitting the grandma age and you really enjoy being around the little kids. So this would be a Wednesday morning, somewhere in the 9:30 to 11:30. Maybe you could do it before work. Let me know. And she's very open. She would like it next week because we're running out of April. We're running out of the year. So there's another one. If you're in the Everett area, this one is going to be a spread of kids. It says kindergarten to fifth grade. Sounds kind of like this is what we called an enrichment type thing. That on Wednesdays, they have these sessions in the afternoon, 3 to 4:30, and they just need you for one session. Ideally, she said May 10th, which is kind of funny because the dates here kind of are odd. But she said that's really what she was looking for, was about May 10th. And talk about pollinating, walking around. I mean, they're out in there's a garden club. I hope they have a garden. Plant strawberries. I mean, talk about you couldn't have strawberries. I think this is sometimes really fun. Let me know, okay? Email me. And if you just even think you might be interested, let me know. Everett area is closer for a lot of people. So I'm expecting probably somebody is going to want to do that. Oh, this was from last time, just that we've done a lot of certificates. In 2023, I think we have another 22 we just are in the mail to us. People who are waiting, 3 of you are waiting for an apprentice and 19 of you for your beginner. It's in the mail. The Vice President of Education of WASBA just told me they're in the mail. So we're going to talk about that queen raising workshop. Oh, the mentoring project is that's on complete hold. The master beekeeper class, I don't know. And the website is getting improved. I'll bring the calendar up to date tonight, and past newsletters, resources, links. The broodminder connection, I just have to learn how to put an iframe in, and I think I can do it. We sent out digital manuals. If anybody got forgotten, what we did was we just went through and said, if you took the class from us, you need the update. And you can't take the class again. So if you need the updated version of the manual for the class you already took, we can send it to you for beginner, apprentice, and journeyman. And we're working on progress forms. And if you don't know what a progress form is, You don't need it yet, but email me if you do, and we will put you to the top of the list. So, journeyman. We need journeyman at these hive sites. Both the Maltby one. I didn't mention Granite Falls. Is Ron on here? I'll have to find out if Ron is on here. I can't see everybody. Okay, when I stop talking, Ron, jump in and tell us how Granite Falls is going. He might be doing nuke installations even this weekend. So if he shows up, we will get a definite out of him, okay? Or you can put it in chat. The Evergreen State Fair, of course, is in August. That's our big outreach. Newsletter articles. Journeymen sometimes don't stop and think. You have a topic, an interesting experience, a type of hive you use, even if it's one thing that you would like to write about or tell people about, we'd love to have your article in our newsletter. The Washington State beekeepers, actually, they are always soliciting articles. Your article might actually be very welcome there. And if not, you can definitely publish with us. Presenting at our meetings, even if it's like 15 minutes, there are 2 people who've been really interested in special projects recently. Gina with the beginner discussion, and also Toby Wilson is not ready to really start getting a lot of response, but she started mentioning on the Facebook discussion group, she's working on forage, on people keeping track of what honeybees actually get nectar and pollen from. And you would think there would be a book on this, there'd be a magazine, there'd be a forage list. There isn't. I've looked, she's looked, everybody's looked. Nobody's really done what is it that honeybees use in Western Washington. It's an interesting topic, and it's a very much needed book, article, survey results, if she could get the survey going. So in the future, you may hear about this. Please send in what plants, common name, Latin name if you know it, picture if you have one, date that you saw a honeybee actually using a certain plant. Speakers. If you have a special topic and you're not a writer, but you're a speaker, for example, on something like forage or a type of hive that you use Waré or Top Bar or something, and you're willing to speak on it, WASBA keeps a speakers list, and it's okay to say that you would like a fee, or you would like travel reimbursement, or you only do Zoom. Take a look at the speakers list at wasba.org. Just go under resources, look for the speakers list. And it's something any club can access. And you might be surprised. You might have one thing that you like to talk about. You don't have to be super knowledgeable on all subjects. It can be one topic that you enjoy talking about. And you've been doing it maybe for your gardening group or your environmental group, the conservation group. You may be doing it at work. And it's one topic. Go ahead and talk to Houston Osborne, who is still looking for people to add to that list. And I know there's big debates going on right now about dry feed or liquid feed, and I just let the bees choose. And they seem to change their mind when the weather goes up and down. So I put that in. We all have questions. I want to get to people's what they're seeing, what they're doing. There's still colonies that could die out now. People seeing dead bees and saying, is it the winter bees dying because they finished raising the brood now, the new bees? Is that what's happening? A couple people were posting on Facebook about that. So this is a slide from last meeting. And I thought, anybody wants to chip in on that? I would like to know what you're seeing. Do you think they're switching over to the wet syrup? Or are they like mine? One day they are, next day they aren't. Mites were bad last spring. It's to me drier. And my husband says no. He checks the weather reports and the inches of rain. He says it's actually wetter, but I'm seeing more sun. but it's also cold. Late spring again, a second one in a row. If anyone wants to talk about clustering or winter temperatures, temperatures are key. What are people seeing? Are your bees managing? Are they getting out? Where are you too? What elevation? If you could share that, that's really helpful for all of us to know. Last spring, it was so cold. The nukes in the packages couldn't use the syrup. So what are you doing about that? Are you feeding dry? Are you keeping your insulation? Well, if you're a first-time beekeeper, you might not have insulation under your top cover. Might be a good idea. I think I'm going to start recommending that after 2 cold springs. Last October, even into November, it was 50-ish and dry. And that kind of weather, I am reading, can lead to a bumper crop of yellow jackets. And that's why in your newsletter, that's the first picture, the yellow jacket trap, because I think we better get them out. I haven't caught anything yet, but it's still freezing in my place. And I did get the robbing screens on. If you came out to my hive site, I didn't have them on yet. I got them all on because the strongest colony wakes up first and sometimes goes next door and robs them out. Somebody posted about that on Facebook. I thought that was interesting. They said there was this small colony and now the small colony's gone when I put the nuke next to it. I like to think they all got a chance to join the bigger group. Rain causes nectar dearth because bees can't fly. I'm still warning people, don't chill the brood. Insulate the tops more than the sides. And your moisture shimmer, your quilt board, is actually insulation. If your inner covers are somewhat damp, sometimes that's just telling you that the brood is being raised. That wet, glistening, healthy, open larvae, that has to be kept at 50 to 80% humidity. And it's hard not to get some condensation every night, especially if the hive isn't insulated at the top. And warm, moist air rises, hits the outer cover, and it's going to condense. Oxalic acid. The temperatures are too low where I am for most everything, except if you're going to do varroa control, oxalic acid is the one you can always do. But we're getting closer to that 50, 55, but you can't do them too early. You have to be sure you're going to have that 50 for a lot of them. The ones that I don't really like, but you put them in for 45, 50 days, Apivar, Checkmate Plus, Epistin, those you can start doing whenever the bees are moving inside the hive. So those you're clear on. But our favorites, some of our favorites like Formic and Apigar, they are supposed to have a higher temperature. So anyway, I wanted to get the conversation started there. Should we stop a little for questions? Any comments here, kind of? Let me look at the chat and see what people are thinking, okay? Let me just stop this a second. Okay, good. Tony's saying hi. Eastern Washington. Yeah, people are saying they're still dropping to freezing at night. And boy, can they get wind over there. Oh, great. Wade, that was yeah. Okay, Wade, I'm glad to see you, Wade. Glad you're doing well enough to show up for the meeting at least. Oh, okay. And hi, Woodland. That's kind of down closer to Oregon, I think. The beginner discussion group. It's Gina Cuff, at gmail.com. And she's calling the discussion group, I forgot that, the Hive Mind. I thought that was really cute. Oh, Toby's there. Okay, Toby, Toby, why don't we stop? And are you ready? Do you want to unmute and
Sure.
explain? Great.
I can unmute and right now, so I am a gardener and a beginning beekeeper. I'm starting my second year and I'm very curious. As a gardener, I get a lot of people asking for what bees use. And I've come to realize there's a big difference between pollinators and bees. And so as a beekeeper, I want to suss out the difference between what the honeybees are using. And I know there's all kinds of nuances there between like what they like best and what they use as a second choice. I know it's complicated, but anyway, I'm trying to suss out the difference between the honeybees and then all the other pollinators. So I drafted a sample survey and I just put the link on the Facebook group. And if anybody is willing to fill that out, I would be grateful. And at this point, yes, of course, I'm interested in what you see your bees using, but I'm also interested to know if this was an enduring link method that you would report, repeatedly, like whatever, once a month or a couple times a month or whatever. How does this survey work for you? How does it feel? Is it clunky? Is it good? So anyway, if anybody's willing to participate, both in the forage data collection, but also just in, yeah, this works, or no, this is cumbersome, I would be grateful. Anyway, and then eventually, I guess I plan to compile the information so that we know what is effective to plant and what we don't need to bother planting if we are looking to feed specifically honeybees. And it's more complex in any way, but I think that's good enough, right?
That's great and it really is astounding that no one's ever really done this, especially in Western Washington, but almost nowhere. And I think it's the money isn't there. There's no funding for it because native pollinators, people are very worried about that. But anything the honeybees can use, probably the native pollinators can use too.
Well, so part of it is there is tension with beekeepers. Sometimes, honey beekeepers are considered the bad guys because we're taking the floral resources away from the pollinators, or maybe there's like disease spreading, blah, blah, blah. So kind of what I would like to be able to come back with and say is, okay, well, then we need to make enough food for everyone. So clearly you're going to plant natives and all of these other things for the big pollinator population. But if you're a beekeeper and you're particularly interested in getting your neighbors and getting yourself to plant a higher density of things that the honeybees prefer so that you can create enough forage that you are not necessarily infringing on the needs of the existing pollinator population, like there are people that think we're bad guys, right, for having bees, and we're taking away resources from the natives. So this is kind of a way to answer that or supplement, and as well, like feed our bees. So that's my line of thinking. And I think there's been a lot of like anecdotal things. People casually put things together, and I don't know if I can promise that I'll do anything better than the bits and bobs that are out there, but I have to start somewhere.
I think so. And sometimes you just get this started and it starts to grow. We have gorgeous things that bloom, like the forsythia. Yeah, that's true. I've never seen a honeybee on forsythia, but it's so cold. But if forsythia is an ornamental that doesn't help at all, that's something I need to know as a beekeeper.
Right. Although in my Facebook post, someone reported that they had bees on their forsythia. So the other thing that I don't know how to suss this out in the survey is like, well, what else is blooming around you that they would rather eat? And so if forsythia is the last, so I'm excited to also track the sort of like frequency of feeding. So whatever, during this couple of weeks, I'm just spitballing, like 300 people reported they saw honeybees on cherries and dandelions and 2 people on forsythia. So we know they use it, but it's not a preferred food source, right? So that you can get an idea. And then I don't know if anybody has tuned into what the project that Ramesh Sagili is doing, but they are collecting pollen to analyze both what the bees are collecting, but then to analyze sort of the quality and the nutritional information so that we can then compare or combine these things and know this is, the bees love this, and this is really actually one of the better quality food sources. So if you only can put 3 shrubs in your garden, these are the top 3 ones to pick for this time of year. Anyway, that's my line of thinking.
I think it could be really helpful. I always worry about that July, early August, late July, early Auguster. And it just seems to be herbs, lavender, teeny weeny little flowers. Sunflowers, though, there's been that article on how good those are nutritionally for bees.
Yeah. Yeah, it'll be interesting. So anyway, if anybody's willing to give me both your observations and your feedback, I popped that survey link, and yeah, I look forward to hearing from y'all. Thanks.
Toby, just an idea real quick is it possibly collecting photos of it, because then you can do the geolocation on it, and then have the geolocation, make it fuzzy for reporting out for people's safety, but having the real data as far as would make it a much more functional, because you have a specific location, date, and time.
I did put an upload photos, but not everyone will take photos, and I know that there's some tech skill barriers sometimes with uploading photos, but I did add that on the survey. So Ty, if you use it and you feel like there's things I should add, I'd be happy to hear more.
Just make it more definitive, because the other thing is, if they have to send a photo, you can use the plant ID thing to actually confirm the plant type, because it becomes much more credible when somebody does the auditing of it, that it becomes more of an actual authentic research tool, as opposed to hearsay.
Right. Totally. Yep. Thanks.
Yep.
Oh, and Toby, if there are people that can't get on the Facebook group, because we do limit the SnoKing Facebook group to people that are Western Washington or some journeyman officers of WASBA, for example, that are on the east side. Is there another link? Can we post the link or put it in the newsletter? Or
sure, I'll email it to you.
Okay, then anybody who wants it, because like Rogelio's asking, and I know that he's on the other side of the mountains, so we discourage people from joining the Facebook link because they get really confused.
Although I don't, no offense, but I don't really want the information from the other side of the mountains. I'm looking for Western Washington. I want to be geographically niched, if that makes sense.
And we are very,
but I'm still happy to send the link.
Yeah. Okay.
Cool. Thanks.
Oh, and Rogelio says he has property on the west side as well. So yeah, he would indicate location. Yes. Okay. Did Joe show? And anybody seeing the winter bees seem to be dying off?
Eli, I'm here, by the way.
Oh, there you are, Joe. Okay, so yeah, I really want you to kind of show your because you did it. I want you to kind of show your video. Do you have it ready to go, or I can find it if I need?
I have it ready to go. Oh, it looks like I can share my screen if you want me to do that.
Yeah. Did anybody have a question? Let's see. We did forage kind of, but I really, even if you've already installed nukes, when I saw what Joe put together, I said, this starts great conversations. This is great for mentoring. This is great for realizing what you know when you go to help somebody do their nuke, what you've already learned as you're at the apprentice or journeyman level. So I really want everybody to watch it. Okay. Okay, Joe.
All right, and then just a quick clarification. I made a mistake on one of the slides. It said March 16th. It's actually April 16th when we installed it, so I just need to change that. All right, I'm going to share my screen. Hopefully this will work. Bear with me just for a moment. Hi, this is Joe with SnoKing Beekeepers Association. In this video, we're going to discuss installing a nucleus of bees in a beehive. This package was installed back on March 16th, 2022. Weather was definitely a challenge with this package, as the days leading up to the package install were low 40s to upper 30s, while the forecast after the 16th called for typical Western Washington spring rain. Preparation is key to any type of nucleus install. The first thing to consider is positioning. Where are you going to put your package of bees? Where is it going to be in relationship to the hive that you're putting it into?
Joe, can you boost your audio a little bit?
Right next to the Langstroth hive, so that way as you lift up each frame and move it to the new hive, there's going to be very minimal chance. Did that help at all or no?
No, let me see. I wonder if I boost mine, if it would help.
Next is tool placement. Where are your tools in relationship to the hive installation? As you can see in this video.
Why don't you pause a second, Joe, and I'll figure out if maybe if I raise mine, because I'm the host, I don't know if that makes a difference or not. Let me see. Let me see if I look at mine.
Or Joe, your system audio? I'm not sure, but yeah, it's coming through.
Okay, yeah, let me raise mine. Okay. Okay, try it again.
To the nucleus and new hive. Other considerations are if you're using pollen patties, that your pollen patties are within close proximity of you, as well as ensuring that your Boardman feeders, if you're using a Boardman feeder, are filled and again are in close proximity. And the final consideration would be frame placement. This would only apply to those who are using shallow or medium-sized hive boxes. A package of bees consists of 5 deep frames. This will present you with a couple options. The first option would be to use a deep hive box and checkerboarding your desired frames and deep frames from the nucleus package. Special attention is needed not to split any brood frames from the nuke. Disadvantages of this strategy include purchasing and using hive box sizes that you don't intend to use long term, as well as the 3 to 4 inches of burr comb that the bees will inevitably build on the bottom bar of your frames. The second option would be to stack 2 of your desired size hive boxes and checkerboard the nuke deep frames with your frames, again not splitting the brood frames of the nucleus. Any space on either the top or bottom box should be filled with the correct size frames. As with the first option, the bees will build burr
Joe,
under the bottom bar.
Can you pause one more time? And all I can think of is on the Zoom setting, when you share screen, do you have a share the audio when you go to this, when you go to share, when you click on what you're going to share, is there a share the audio off the original audio?
Yeah, there's share sound, and under computer audio, I can do maybe.
Yeah. Okay. Share the video audio. It'll say something like that.
Yeah, so just under basic. So I'm going to do, let's see, screenshot 1, share sound. I just want to make sure.
Yeah, because I really want people to hear the audio.
All right, let's see if that will work. Or let me see if I can try something else here. Standby. No, it's not going to go that way. Okay. We'll just try again now that I'm going to try stereo. Maybe it might help.
Well, let me show you real quick. If I share screen and show you, let's see. I don't know if it'll just share screen. and show you what I'm looking at. Okay, here, if I tell it to do this, if I tell it to share, oh, shoot. No, that's too tricky for me to try to share that way. But all I can see is the share sound. There's a share sound option.
And the sound wasn't coming through at all.
It's just really low. And I turned my volume up thinking maybe it's me. But if it's not the original sound from the video, that's the problem. And there's a share sound thing that when you go to share, we're at the very bottom and you're picking what part of your screen you're going to show. I can try sharing from here too. That would be the other way. You want to try one more time? If it doesn't work, what I can.
Yep, let me try one more time here.
Okay, try one more time. And if it doesn't work, then if I share it, let's see if it does better because I'm the host.
The goal with both options is to have your bees
No.
enough comb.
No, it's not working. Okay, let me see if I go to here and
Hi, this is Joe with SnoKing Beekeepers Association.
Okay.
In this video, we're going to discuss installing a nucleus of bees in a beehive. This package was installed back on March 16th.
Okay, let me see. Share screen.
Weather was definitely a challenge with this package, as the days leading up to the package install were low 40s to upper 30s, while the forecast after the 16th called for typical Western Washington spring.
Okay,
rain.
wait a minute. I think you're seeing the wrong screen.
Preparation is key to any type of nucleus install. The first thing to consider is positioning. Where are you going to put your package of bees?
Are people seeing it now?
Where is it going to be in relationship to the hive? Here you can see that we position.
Yeah, Eli, I see it.
Is it a little better?
So that way, as you
Yeah, the audio, I can hear the audio.
Okay, good.
There's going to be very minimal chance that you're going to be dropping bees outside of the hive. Next is tool placement. Where are your tools in relationship to the hive installation? As you can see in this video, we have 2 hive tools and a bee brush, and these are located right next to the nucleus and new hive. Other considerations are if you're using pollen patties, that your pollen patties are within close proximity of you, as well as ensuring that your Boardman feeders, if you're using a Boardman feeder, are filled and again are in close proximity. And the final consideration would be frame placement. This would only apply to those who are using shallow or medium-sized hive boxes. A package of bees consists of 5 deep frames. This will present you with a couple options. The first option would be to use a deep hive box, checkerboarding your desired frames and deep frames from the nucleus packet. Special attention is needed not to split any brood frames from the nuke. Disadvantages of this strategy include purchasing and using hive box sizes that you don't intend to use long term, as well as the 3 to 4 inches of burr comb that the bees will inevitably build on the bottom part of the frames. The second option would be to stack 2 of your desired size hive boxes and checkerboard the nuke deep frames with door frames. Again, not splitting the brood frames off the nucleus. Any space on either the top or bottom box should be filled with the correct size frames. As with the first option, the bees will build burr comb under the bottom bars. The goal with both options is to have your bees draw out enough comb on your desired size frames to eventually remove the deep frames and boxes. All right, let's jump into it.
Track orientation. Picture. And they're all binding is yes. The patties all covered. It's on here. And we have room right over here. You have room for a person here. Gotta get close enough. You can't. That's why we're careful not to get too many people. Look how they're all busy. Just look at the way they're right. There's a rightness about them. You have to get up real close. I mean, seriously. Okay. Now, to center. Maybe walk to the center and just move over. I think you'll probably be fine. So move out of your way. There's lots of room. See that? When you have finger room, you know you're not rolling anybody. Okay, go ahead and take a look if you want. I think take a look at both sides where you put it down. You're looking for a yellow dot queen, and you're holding it over the box. If she did fall, she can straight in, right? Yep. Anybody see anything interesting? Is that the empty cone? That's extra. That's pretty much the extra, I think.
Yeah.
Although they're pretty busy on it, there may be eggs in there. Anybody have a flashlight? Just how it falls.
Wait, does it need to be in the order that it was in the nucleus?
Yeah, you're gonna. Oh, yeah, you're gonna try to do it the same order. Okay, I just want to see. Are there any eggs? You're doing so well. Fingers for the center. Lift it up and just do quick. Because I think that could be their laying. Yeah, so you're gonna have to lift it up, like I said, to be able to look into the. Yeah, I know. We're just figuring you're gonna be so good at this. See how they're all busy and focused. This is your honeymoon period. Oh, it's pollen. You want pollen in there? Okay. You see pollen colors and such? Everybody will get some pollen color? Yeah, that's pollen colors.
If a bee falls on the ground, like that's fine.
If a bee falls on the ground, does it make noise?
No.
Nobody's around?
Okay. Yeah, okay. Anything else somebody needs to see? Because it is a little hard to see. You're looking for the yellow dot, lots of eyes. She should be toward the center where it's nice and warm.
It would be like a bright yellow dot.
There's the residual caption at the top. See the little caption. Okay, so that was brewed and then they filled it with pollen probably last year. Okay.
By the way,
You don't have to get it perfect. The last one you put it in, then you can nudge everybody over. Okay. So maybe you want to pull it out.
Oh, sorry. You're off.
Use your high tool if you want. Pull it out a little bit. See, everybody is so focused. Spring is wonderful this way. Keep staying close as you can see.
No, you have this suit, so
Everybody.
bye. I'm good. I thought they were gonna be crazier. Yeah, I thought more of them would be flying around.
I think it's too much.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I don't think I'd want to be flying around if I was them.
Keep throwing on.
There she is.
Okay, you're gonna see you there. They're all focusing. I think I feel the captain. I see the captain over here. Right there. Here, looking constantly for another. He checks them. Well, there's a clean cell and he gets to it. Yeah, he gets there. And this is the easiest time of year actually to have a little peppermint oil on the hands too. And we're okay because cap fruit is really easy for them to heat back up again. Eggs is easy for them to heat back up again. And there's enough.
They didn't like that.
Oh, he finally got you.
No, I blew on them.
Oh, yeah.
Just trying to blow them off my finger.
CO2.
Right.
They don't like CO2.
Yeah, they know they're a predator. CO2, warm vapid breath. What do you think? A skunk or a raccoon or a bear does from? Yeah.
So they decided this, Tony on the top of the hands, getting stuff with
Nope.
that.
These frames probably came out of stack frame.
I'm trying not to, squish them with my fingers,
Yeah,
since they're on my fingers already.
they're always,
That's a cool one.
change your mind. Let me share here. Everybody's here.
Can't wait till.
Yeah, that extra foam on top, that just happens because there was, these frames are almost for sure, okay. Yes, you launch there.
The first one.
No, it's, see, look, that's almost, okay, now you need them to move, you put your hand like this, they just move, oh my goodness, you feel the heat. the heat off this and the smell. And they're used to moving out of your way. See, that's, I don't do a lot of barehanded. Now this is a nice, can you see the nice circular pattern? This is probably the half. That's not too many holes. It came out of a pretty good queen.
Now, is this about the speed we should be doing it at, or?
Yes.
You gotta get to see them. Come on, you gotta, you for this.
Okay. I just want to know, like, I just want to know, like, you know, compare.
Okay. And they're still focusing pretty much on the heat. And if you have a glove off or put your hand over, just feel the heat rising off. Yeah, and through your triple mesh, you can feel heat too.
I didn't think it'd be that hot in the back of the trailer, but we were.
They are generating heat. That's the brood has to get back. When we stop, the brood has to be back to 92 to 94 degrees. Your body temp is 96. They have to get them back. There are bees that mainly that's what they do is heat. There's a kind of a neat picture of heater bees. Okay.
Only I could train them to come into my house and sit on my feet.
I don't know. Now the buzz is going up, isn't it? Are they making more of a buzz now? Something has changed, okay? They're resettling in, and we're doing the best we can to make sure we didn't move the kitchen cupboard away from the nursery, away from the living room. Okay, now nectar. You see the shiny nectar in there?
Like, it almost looks like it's there, and it's not.
And if some nectar spills, they go clean it up. And then
The decision was made with this nuking stall to keep the nucleus frames together. This provided the queen ample cells to lay in without splitting the brood.
For me, Eli.
Okay, I love the light there. I know. You had to be old enough to know Eli's coming. Okay. They're really, really packed in. I think they're taking care of brood. But then when you dehydrate honey, they gotta keep their hands. And these aren't really stuck together because they assemble the nukes. And that's part of why there's some. That would someday tiny bit. And I chose to do all kinds of nudgy stuff.
And some nukes, they're not all gonna be from the queen, right?
Right, and this probably isn't all from the queen. They probably put this together, made sure, checking right before they sold it to you.
Oh, wait a minute.
But lots of nectar and resource. And I see capped honey, I know here. Is there capped honey on that side too? A little bit. Yeah, waxy cappy.
No.
Sorry,
Okay.
on yet?
Not as much cat brew as I would expect, but I suspect some of it's already emerged. And the darkness is the brood comb. I see lots of shiny nectar on this side.
That's
I was gonna say, probably was a good idea to put that in there.
What?
Oh, I mean, put that in there.
Oh, well, just in case it rained, I mean, one thing.
Well, this would be all the way.
Yeah, and then it kind of gets stuck there. So I'll have to get back. Okay, so we did a great job in not having a fly up or anything. What about, you wanna try it with fan smack once to see if we can get it down? You go down? And I didn't touch the hive. Nah, they flew up, didn't they? They all did. Okay, these is the same thing, and it's a little bit tricky with these hardboards. Get them out. And what they do is they go between. They're in between there. Is that pretty clear? Not too bad?
Not too bad.
Okay, beavers might be better. And it is kind of cold. The only problem with them flying up is it's too cold for them to get back in. They don't fly really below 45, not well.
So all these guys, they won't be able to find out.
They'll try to. Hopefully they'll at least feel the high warmer.
Figure out how best to do this.
And then they should be able to feel the heat of the high.
Oh my. That's so bad.
Oh, okay, yeah, that's what dropped in. Yeah, and if they only live 7 weeks and they've been a few days in there and
Yeah.
Sorry.
That's the same problem. It's all you can do that. Or just leave it there and tomorrow morning, and if you leave it right in front. See, that's what I would do was package, but and there aren't that many. That's yeah, and they will join mini high pretty
We
much.
need to put another,
One more, yeah.
one more.
That counts 10. So now, we go to the room. Is that other one in without? Or long one?
I can probably
Yeah, deep, a deep,
drift these over.
black deep.
Trying to fit in.
When Patty is next. Paul Patty first, right there. Ready? Paul Patty. You're gonna put the Paul Patty out so you block the hole. Because they have to get up to the feeder.
Each circles on the side.
Just over to one.
You wanna have
Just the front or back side. Just to block this. Unlogically, but sometimes you hold it on the door. Okay, so this side, you front or back.
In there?
Yeah, on top of the trays. Yeah,
But
you
it's
put it on
squishy,
top of
buddy.
it, so cold, we might not be able to get it. Okay.
It's squishy.
It is so cold. You really need to. Yeah, they're a little tight.
Come on, kids. Back away. Back away.
Is this where smoke would have helped to drive them down so they're not?
Not a lot. They're being so calm.
So we have smoke, right?
It doesn't hurt to, because you never know if you're gonna drop an entire frame or something. You don't quite have this little bit falling on it. Now they're starting to notice you. No. Now you're patty. And you can put the patty, right? Yeah, you can put it that way, or you can put it this way. They'll probably get to it faster if you put it this way. Okay. And then I just kind of push you down. Plenty of time, just move down between the cracks. You don't have to be squished.
So the pattern's not too heavy
Yeah.
for them to get out from under.
Yeah, the other one. Box. Do you have another patty?
Yes, so I have a box.
Okay, so I would go ahead and put the notch up for that end. That's my preference. You can pick a different preference. And then, yeah, just kind of swoosh and it can get off. Here, the inner cover is added, which helps insulate the brood box as well as allows for feeders to be installed on top of it. Some inner covers, like the one being installed here, will have two depths. One side is slightly deeper to accommodate a pollen patty. When installing your inner cover, if you feel resistance from the pollen patty and there's a noticeable gap between the inner cover and the hive box, flip the inner cover over and try that orientation. And with this rain, they can't even go out and get anything. And if they don't like it, they'll chew it up and throw it on the slide out. No, just squish, they'll get out of the way. Just, there you go. Okay. Okay. Peter Rack. Patty next. And you can choose to completely cover the hole or not. Either way.
Which would you prefer?
Doesn't make any difference right now, but later on, if they're making a lot of, if you had, that's right, you got the notch down, doesn't make any difference. If you had the notch up, they couldn't get in and out. Making a decision about that. So, okay, pork jars on. Checking the drip, you should put them on. If you're installing Boardman feeders like the feeders that are being installed here, ensure that the mason jar lids allow for a small trickle of syrup to flow through the lid, but stops after a few seconds. Tension from the water-sugar mixture will stop the syrup from continuously flowing.
And this is half sugar, half water? Right? 1 to 1.
Yeah.
I went to make hummingbird food the other day and I made 1 to 1 and I went, oh, God, it's a little too thick for that.
Yes, and the deep cover.
Wait a minute, picture.
Ensure that your top hive box can accommodate your feeders prior to the arrival of your bees. For example, the height clearance for this feeder system requires either a deep hive box or 2 mediums for the outer cover to close correctly. As if they, but see, it's not that now they got 2 methods on the same side. They can feel and use the hive. They'll make it back in.
And
Okay, now let's go England.
Finally, the outer cover is added to the top hive box. Depending on the time of season and temperature, moisture control media and insulation should be added under the outer cover to aid in moisture and humidity control.
If you wanted to, take the frames out of that box, keep the insulation in there. Use 1/8 inch or burlap staple, and you could give them a little extra warmth to keep this warm. You would put this. Yeah, yeah, and with 1/8 inch stapled up, probably to make a quick moisture shed. Burlap.
Do you have a floor to do that though? Do you have a ceiling to do that?
You can use the 1/8 inch because it came through. If you don't do that, every once in a while, when they can get through that center hole, they will go up and decide they like to hang out there. And you don't want them getting any ideas about hanging. But just any insulation at all. And actually, if you cut those panels, 4x8 count panels of insulation, people have been out to mine and seen the 4x8 panels, and you cut them so they fit snugly inside of a Western.
Yeah. I have some left.
And they would kind of rest on the jars. It just makes it easier for you. They don't fall out every time you go. Okay, so when you
Actually, the stuff I have is Thermax, so it's got the aluminum foil on both sides of it.
and it's the white lovely stuff.
It's the yellow.
Yeah, that's great. I mean, 2 inches, and the only reason is the heat rising from the hive. You could feel it. It's amazing, and good. But we can get good smell. Everybody needs a good sniff. Yeah, a beehive hive. You know, for the next and no, seriously, you can walk into a hive in the wintertime, you lift the lid, you smell, and you go, doing well. I got water down below there. Even if I don't have to go any further, you can smell the mold. But you smell good. It's wonderful. It's really, you get high on that stuff. They should buy it. But the reason for the insulation isn't that they need it so much, it's that it keeps the feed warm. That little extra heat that rises up, and that's why I say you can get away with it at 50 degrees when the book says 55. We're never going to get 55. Okay.
I hope you found this nucleus install informative. If you have any questions regarding this install or membership to the SnoKing Beekeepers Association, you can reach us through our Facebook page, email, or website at snowkingbka.org. Thank you for watching and happy beekeeping.
How do I do this? Let's get it back here. Oh, stop share. Okay, that was really good, wasn't it? I mean, I think it's worth watching, even if you already know how to install a nuke. Thinking about it, look at all the stuff that you knew, and did it bring back great memories of your first bees, getting your first bees, and you're sitting there going, anyway. And like, you paid for it. Enjoy the installation. You paid for it. You need pictures of you in a bee suit holding bees and put it on the internet because you're now a beekeeper. I thought it was really good. I'm really happy. So it'll go on YouTube. I think Joe needs to add his name. I'm sorry, Joe, you need to put your name on there. And maybe the Dietzels. That was the Dietzels, Joe and Dennis over in Edmonds, who said they'd do another hive site. They're really neat people. And they'd never done bees before. That was Dennis's first time barehanded, just handling bees. And he went ahead and did it calmly and barehanded, which is easier to do when it's the first bees of the year and they have the right temperament and you have the right temperament.
Yeah, I would say that I didn't see smoke. Without that, my little Russians would have been taking most of the crew out.
Yeah, they are different on temperament, but that was pretty cold too. That's another thing. They needed to cluster. Yeah, when are we going to get 50 degrees? Yeah, but yeah, smoker at hand is a good idea. And I can't remember. I think we talked about it and had it, but decided not to take the time to light it.
Yeah, I think we were, we just wanted them to get in the box before the rains that were predicted later that day were going to start falling on us.
Yeah. Yeah. And that actually shows exactly pretty much the same weather that we're having this year. And sometimes this is where it gets a little confusing if you're talking to people east of the mountains and they have warmed up, but they haven't apparently. Apparently east of the mountains is not warmed up yet. But when it has, people think we're crazy. Why are you installing at the low 40 degrees in it's cloudy and overcast? Why don't you wait? Well, you have the Monday through Friday paycheck job. It's always rainy, terrible weather on Saturday, Sunday, the days you're off. Or your family and your friends all say, we want you to go do something else. And you end up doing it with a friend holding the umbrella. And you take a lot of pictures because you have to put the bees in the hive and you can't take too long to do it. The only thing I wasn't sure if it was clear was the part where if you are going to use 2 different size frames, if you know you're going to start with a deep and you're going to put a Western on top. And did everyone understand that why there were medium frames, 2 medium frames that were hanging in a deep box? Okay, that was, and I don't know how to explain that well, except when you watch this and you're showing it to someone, then explain it to them. If you go, if the bees, you put your 5 deep frames into a 10 frame box, you're installing the nuke, 10 deeps, 5 deeps into a 10 deep. Okay. If you put all deep in the bottom, when you go to put a Western on later, and if you are a brand new first year beekeeper and all your foundation is bare, what happens is the bees will sometimes refuse to go up. You have to move a frame up. But now you have the problem of the 3 inches of comb that Joe mentioned. If you have a deep and you try to bring the deep up into the Western and let it dangle down, actually that would end up 6 inches of comb. The bees will not move up unless you have some drawn comb up there, some brood up there. You get them up there. You have to take at least 1 frame especially with brood on it, and cap brood is perfect. And we call that the bait frame. You bring that up. Well, if you know you're going to put a Western box on top of a deep, and that was the plan when the Dietzel's were installing, they knew they wanted to go to Westerns, but nukes are generally sold in deep frames. Okay, so they had to start with deep. So they deliberately put 2 Westerns right on each side of the 5 deep frames for the nuke, because those would get filled out right away and drawn out. The comb would get drawn out, and then they could take those 2 and move them up right over the original nuke, pick them up and put them right on top when they put that Western box on, when the bottom box was completely filled out. Yeah, see, and that's the problem. Yeah, Linda's saying if you have a deep on the bottom, you're going to put the Western on top, but they won't move up frequently, especially when it was so cold. And last year was really bad that way. People had their nukes would just they refused to go up. They would swarm before they would go up. They were so cold that they wouldn't use not just frames 1 and 10 on the outsides. They weren't using 1 and 2 and 9 and 10. They weren't going out. And then if there was no drawn comb, they weren't going up either. And we ended up with a lot of our nukes just sat there and they wouldn't grow. So this idea that if you could pick up 2 drawn frames of Western frames and pick them up and then kind of push things together and put those deep frames, the 2 you had to take out of the bottom. See, it's really hard to explain this. Somebody come up with a better explanation, okay? I know. Say it better, okay? And write it up and we'll put it in the newsletter. How's that? But otherwise, it's great. We got to tell the Dietzels. I don't think they're here tonight. We got to tell them that we did this. They're now celebrities. There's a quick note about the state fair. It's not till August, and it's our big time to kind of get together and staff the booth in Monroe for the Monroe Fair. whatever local club you're in, sort of start planning now that's a great time to be seeing other beekeepers. Oh, and somebody mentioned taping off the upper entrance until the hive is strong. It depends on whether you're closing up that bottom quite a bit. And then can your bees get to the feed? We were talking about that notch. But yeah, upper hive entrances really aren't necessary. They became popular to increase honey production. There's actually some reasons they became popular. And then there is a school of thought that it helps with winterizing airflow. And we don't talk about winterization this time of the year. Yeah. The sleet has stopped here. Okay. Linda's mentioning that the sleet's still going. Where are you, Lindy? Did you say in the chat where you are? Woodland. That's right. You said where you were. Yeah. So you're not crazy if you leave your insulation, your winterizing insulation under your outer cover. But if you're a brand new beekeeper, you probably didn't get any. And I think we almost need to start recommending, if we have a third spring like this in a row, this is unusually cold, and the last one too, but it does happen. Yeah, keep the insulation on. My hives are still wrapped, and people think it's kind of silly, but then to put the liquid feed on, I have to have the insulation on top because we're barely getting up to 50 during the day. Anybody else have something they kind of want to say? Because the other topic is the queen timeline.
One thing, Eli, I had the newspaper moisture absorbing thing up top underneath the 2 inches of insulation. And I had 2 hives without and 2 hives with, just to try the difference. And the 2 hives with the absorber were very wet. And when I pulled them out, one of them had mold underneath the inner cover. The other 2 where I did not use them, and just the 2 inches of rigid insulation did not have any mold or anything like that. They actually did better. So, it's only 4 data points, but I thought that was interesting.
And you are doing very thick insulation all around the sites.
They would not until they went. I made mine go all the way through. There were some family events that happened, and so I have them, but I have not applied them. So I have one whole winter with data of them not being insulated except the 2 inches on the top. So I will build them, and they will get in. I will insulate them actually into this spring into summer, and I'll let them go through the summer with insulation on too. So it should keep them moderated on either side.
Yeah, that's interesting. And when you put styrofoam, I have found that the warm moisture still sneaks up around the cracks of the styrofoam, if there's anything at all, hits that cold, and then it comes down the sides. Was your moisture quilt board, the moisture shim thing, was it evenly wet, or was it wet where it had trickled down the sides, down the side?
It was coming out. I mean, when I took that ship layer off, it just it just poured off the side, and it was like, oh my God. Mm-hmm. But on the other hives, they were dry inside, so I'm going to not use the moisture insulation next time. And now it will be much more heavily insulated as well. Mm-hmm. But I'm gonna try that and see what comes of it, and we'll have broodminder data against that as well.
And did you have any upper venting or openings at all? Okay.
None. Yep.
Yeah, that's interesting. You just try what works. I have people who swear they cannot have the slide out board in. They have to pull it out and with open bottom screen, which just sounds terrible to me, but there are people who say they try it both ways and they know which way works.
Yeah. So anyway, that was very interesting data.
Yeah. Anything else? Should I show you the timeline quickly? We're not really far on the queen raising workshop, but that was the one other thing that I have been promising we'd get to, and the weather is so miserable.
Yeah, it's supposed to, what do we, it looks like weather says in the next week, we're supposed to actually start peaking over 60 a little bit.
Yeah, and we're just going to have to start the queen raising workshop. We can't wait until it's good weather.
Right.
So if I look at the timeline, and then if the people who are most interested in doing it will tell me, I'm hoping that we could get people to come out on like Monday and Saturday, because the more I looked at it, let me show you this timeline. Let me share screen again here. Okay, is everyone seeing a Excel spreadsheet that says days old, day of DOW, day of the week, date, task status?
Yep.
Everything good? Okay, good. Okay, and I basically took this, there's lots of them out there, and they're all the same, from the Susquehanna Valley Beekeepers, and they've got a website, and this is where it kind of came from. What's neat about the way they did it was you click and drag, and it fills. It fills. Like once we pick a date, then we can click and drag, and we'll know what all the dates are. And it's like, yeah, they when you start. Now, the thing about queen grafting is people who fail at it usually don't understand that you don't just go out there, grab a brood frame with eggs on it, pull the eggs off, and put them in the little grafting cups. I don't have a lot of images. We'll do that when we go through. We'll have to meet by Zoom at least once, if not twice, before actually trying to do this, to make sure everybody understands what we're doing and why it is spaced out in time. So today I'm just going to try to cover the timeline. And the first thing is, you can't just go out there, grab a frame with some eggs on it, scoop them out, put them in the cups, and stick them in a hive and have the bees make queens. You have to have a queenless hive. You have to have a strong queenless hive. You have to have a strong queenless hive with a lot of young bees that really want to feed larvae, and they are just going to stuff those eggs you put in the queen cups. They're just going to stuff them full, and they're going to make the biggest, strongest, robust queens that they can. So actually, the part we're at now is building up hives in population. And we're starting at mine because that's the apiary we have. And also at the receiving apiaries, for you to take home a queen, and that's the goal, is some people can just take home the cells. But if you're going to take home a queen with a frame of her own brood on it, which I figure is the best way for us to do this, best chance of introduction, you have to have a hive to put her in. So you have to either be requeening, you're going to kill off the queen that's in there, or remove her somehow, and you're going to give like 24 hours usually is what you do. Put this queen in with a frame of her own brood after we finish raising queens, or you have to have a whole hive ready to put her in, at least several frames worth of bees, depending on how warm or cool the weather is. This time of the year, trying to put queens into nukes that are less than 5 frames with the temperatures we have is going to really stress the bees. And she may not get a fair chance to, for example, if you're putting the queen cell in, she emerges, she goes out to fly and mate and come back and have the bees supporting her, and they're not stressed and they're well fed. You really need about the 5 frame nukes. That takes a lot of bees. Look at how many of us don't have 10, 20 frames of bees. We're getting to the 10 frame maybe in our strongest hives, but we really don't have 5 deep frames of brood and stores that we can spare to make a split right now. If it was an earlier, warmer spring, we would. So the first thing is, everybody who's interested in this, keep building up your hives and population. We're doing that here. And unfortunately, it's so cold, we can't even go in the hives. So this week, I will get into the hives and make sure we really evaluate how many we can do. We can always raise the queen cells, but where are they going to go? And to get each queen her own mating nuke, There are a lot of ways to do it with fewer bees when the weather is warm. And our weather isn't that warm, but we need to get this started. It's one of the problems of raising your own queens in this area. So we're working on that now. Then say we start on a Monday. I was trying to figure out how we could do this like Monday and Saturday. How could we do this? If we were to start on a Monday, we find the breeder queen colony we want. One thing you have to do is when we're in rain dearth, and this would be true if you were in summer dearth, but we have rain dearth. I discovered this last year. You cannot just select the colony and say, oh, here's a frame of eggs. I'm going to come back in 3 days and take out these eggs. I did that and went in, and I hadn't fed extra nectar to those bees. It was raining and the colony was pretty strong, but they decided that after a week of rain, they were going to cannibalize all the eggs the queen laid. So I went in, made sure she was laying, marked the top of the frame, came back 3 days later, and every egg had been removed off that frame. And I know it was that frame because I marked it. So one thing I know to do this year is decide which is our best queen that we think we would like to pick. She's been a good producer. Her pattern is still good, maybe after a year or two, especially. She still has a good compact worker pattern. She's willing to lay even at these cool temperatures. Okay, start feeding beforehand. Then either put the empty brood frame into the brood nest, and that is a perfect way to know what day 0 was. Mark the top of the frame with marker, a little piece of pink duct tape, whatever. Mark the top. Then you're going to come back in 3 days, and if she lays right away, you're going to know that you have the right 3-day-old eggs that are just hatched. Maybe even do this like a day apart so we know that when we get to Saturday. So Wednesday, let's insert it in, and that's Thursday, Friday, Saturday, 3 days. And we should on Saturday be seeing the eggs hatching. Could do it on Tuesday. If it's really cold, it might actually take like a half day more. Okay, so insert that empty brood frame to the well-fed breeder queen hive. Then, while waiting for her to lay and those eggs to reach that 3-day point, on Thursday, Friday, especially Thursday's the best, create the queenless starter, a cell builder hive, a hive that is so strong in young nurse bees, ideally just emerging out of their capped brood that you could see them just starting to chew their way out. If you have several hives, this is easier to find. Might be a little more difficult this spring, but we'll do it. You want some just emerging, some capped brood. You want honey and pollen frames. You want to avoid putting any young open larvae in there. Older open larvae, not so bad. Why not eggs in there and really young larvae? You're making it queenless. You don't want them starting to raise queens. And on Saturday, one of the things you're going to do just a few days later is check very carefully to make sure you didn't miss any eggs and put them in there in that cell builder. Sometimes it's called a starter hive that you set up. And you're going to look for supersedure cells and smash any queen cups, anything you possibly see. Now you're going to be actually grafting. You've got to find like a warm place that you can do it. With our climate, I think what I usually do is come inside the house to do it. And because it's warmer there, covered with a wet towel so it doesn't dry out. And it takes a certain amount of moving back and forth, but keeping the day-old larvae, because now they've hatched, you're looking for those. We have magnifying glasses. We have several different types of tools that you use to carefully scoop them up. And you can try the different tools. That's part of why doing this is really neat as a group, because we can try different things and see what works. Okay, so that was the first Saturday. Now you can tell in just a few days, 3 or 4 days at the most, but you can tell by even Monday that the young nurse bees that you've got in there that are just dying to feed brood, they are going and they are just drawing out those little queen cups already. They've got it packed with jelly inside, and you can look and you can see how many cells they accepted, depending on how carefully you transferred the larvae and how good of a job you did getting the queenless hive full of young bees ready to go. It's actually really fast. Those queen cells are going to be capped. I mean, it's incredibly fast. If you remember your queen timeline, and this is part of why we have to meet, go over it with Zoom, so it makes sense how fast this is going to move. They're capped. Now, the literature doesn't agree, anecdotes don't agree, but after this queen capping point, which is day 8, we're kind of over here, it's still tracking for us. And I think I better send this out and people better look at it. Let's see if we got it. Anybody can think of improvements on it. We can go over that. There's a couple of days after the queen cell is capped. What happens when it's capped? Well, the first thing the queen does is she's in there and she's still eating. That queen larva is still eating like crazy. They just gorge themselves. And a good queen cell, even when she emerges, it still has some royal jelly in there. She had so much she couldn't finish it all. All right. As soon as she finishes gorging, she's ready to spin her cocoon. Now remember, she's doing this upside down. And she's spinning it. It is said that if you move the cells at this time, you may actually like drop them on their heads because she's doing it upside down. I guess that's the theory. Now, at the same time that you're being careful not to move them, that Saturday, you can also be setting up the queenless mating nukes. Again, you have to come up with bees that are going to support a young queen coming in. Take care of that cell because you're going to move the cell over to that mating nuke right when it's ready to emerge. There's enough pheromone coming off even a queen cell that if you made sure that there weren't any supersedure cells, again, the same thing. Notice how on Monday it says, check those mating nukes for supersedure cells. Make sure. Transfer those queen cells to the nukes. Just a couple of days before they emerge. They're going to emerge. There's like a 24-hour period there. Now you're going to check for the emergence, flap hanging. You have to do this very gently without disturbing them a lot. It's good to see that they emerged and how many cells did not emerge. And if you can figure out why. Sometimes you accidentally left a queen in there or something. There's some reason. Other times you just don't know. So you see how this is starting to take a lot of time? Now you've got these individual queens in their mating nukes. It takes 6 to 10 days for them to mate. So the mating flights could start, for example, Wednesday on this system, day 21. We're already 3 weeks into this. And then you have to give them some time to mate. You're hoping for 70-degree weather, blue skies, and she'll be able to go out and just do it, and we'll get back. There's a 25% failure to return from a mating flight successfully. That's just an accepted reality. It can be worse. After she comes back, if she mated right away that first day, you might be able to spot eggs by day 31. Spotting eggs is hard though. But definitely you should be able by day 33. I think you could easily see them. But if you don't see eggs, then you're going to have to wait a little. You can wait a little longer. Maybe the weather stopped her. This is one thing too. You're going to have to be looking at day 21 through about 25. What was the weather like? She still has another week or so that she can mate successfully, and it won't, as far as I know, negatively impact her breeding ability and her later on her fecundity or her productivity later. But there, at some point, her ability drops off, and they say if she hasn't mated in a month, there is no hope. What she will do is just start to lay eggs at some point. That's part of, you can't tell if she made it. If she starts to lay eggs and she's laying unfertilized eggs, all you're going to get are drones. You're checking for the larvae. It can be difficult to spot drone larvae with a drone laying queen in the first few days that she lays eggs. But once it starts to get capped, then you're going to be able to tell. You're going to be able to tell capped worker brood from drone brood because the tops are going to look different. We're already at day 45. For you to be sure that she's laying well, she's laying worker fertilized eggs, which means she really mated in a good pattern. This is more time than most people realize it takes to do this. And then if at some point in here you saw something wrong, for example, checking the graphs, if you go back to day 5 and or a little later, and you just are not seeing those queen cups ever got drawn out, then you can save time because you're watching and start a second set of graphs. Usually, if you did a really good queen starter up here, strong, young bees, the capped brood was just emerging, you had honey and pollen stores in there, feed them to, give them everything they could possibly want. If you can start, if you did that, you can do a second graft. At some point, those bees start to age out. If you want to do this over the summer, you're going to have to restart your queenless starter occasionally. So that's really the important part for us to understand right now, planning this queen raising, that it's going to take a while to do. For people who just want to see just day 3, we'll do an extra day where you just come in and you try the grafting tools and transfer the larvae. For those who really want to get queens, this is a great club project. I think it would be great if every club did it. And a lot of clubs do. Every year, do this, but realize that it's going to take a while. So if we start, if we were to wait till June 1st, for example, we would already be on day 45, sure that we have what we want. That'd be the 15th of July. You have to know what you're going to do with that queen, and you have to have a hive ready to put her in. Maybe you're going to use her for requeening. That's the second problem in grafting. But I really want to help everybody get through this. I've done this once by myself, once with the club last time, and things can go wrong, but it's a good experience. And at the end of it, you'll love it. And you say, I'm going to do this, or you will decide that $45 is a bargain for a queen. And like $85.90 is a bargain for her on her a frame of her own brood. Don't be surprised if at the end of it, you really respect the people who raise queens, and especially raise queens locally and can hand you the queen on a frame of her own larvae. Apparently you take a nuke box when you're going to do that. Questions? How many people are ready to sign up?
I'd probably do it for reserve queens if I could, in that purpose of just getting enough that I could build them up enough so that they would get through the winter in a small configuration and have queens available if needed.
And that was pretty successful. That's what we did last year with the queens. The only thing was I didn't plan ahead enough to have enough honey and pollen stores and supportive hive for those queens, because we're getting into July. And
right.
That's the best part about this program is if you either are requeening a hive that's already thriving, you just don't want a 3 or 4 year old queen going in, even 2-year-olds. Some people say don't. July, like 15th, if you get to that point, is going to still be enough time for you to put that queen in, make sure she's accepted, make sure everything's going great, because you've already proofed her too. That getting up to July 15th, that 45-day type amount of time, you've made sure before you put her in. If you put a queen cell into a thriving hive and she's a dud, she's a drone layer, she just doesn't lay at all. They don't accept her for whatever reason. If you don't proof first, you're risking the whole hive. In a laying worker situation, you got to keep your eye on it. requeening is a pain. And then you got to find her too. If she's marking is going to be an important part of this too. Everybody's going to want to mark the queens. So we need to look at, I think we need at least 2 days of the week, and some people aren't going to be able to come on the weekdays. I suggest we go for the grafting on the Saturday, with the way I set it up, like we can slip it a little, but pretty much I think a lot of people, it's going to be their Saturday availability. So I will put this in a format that people can look at it. We need to set a Zoom date. I don't know what day of the week will work for people to meet. And I don't know how many people are available during the week. So maybe people would tell me how many of you are available during the week. And if you're available Tuesday, we'll kind of slide. We'll just kind of figure out how to set things up. I sort of need the middle of the week volunteers more than anything else. So email me if you think you are a Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday person, might be able to come over and help set that up and help track that. Help get the, and sometimes you're going to have to help get the queen builder. It's called the cell builder or the starter hive. Gotta get that ready. That's kind of a middle of the week if you're going to do it later. If you're going to be like within a few days, you can't have that cell builder too long or you're going to end up with laying workers. With all those young nurse bees, they're not likely to go into laying worker for a couple of days and you're checking for the supersedure cells. So you've got some leeway. We can slide with that Excel spreadsheet. It's really nice. Once we set a date, we can slide. So why don't people email me directly if you think you could do during the week, if you could come in the middle, probably the middle of the day, because you got to get into the hives. And then Saturday, I'm assuming we can get a lot of people that can show up. And we could do this in more than one, but the later we do it, the less time you have to decide what to do with that queen. And the queen over-entering project went pretty well. But I would really recommend that double nuke thing where you're bundling them together. And I showed pictures in the newsletters, I know. We'll go over it again if we can. We have to do the Zoom pre-class. It'll take at least one session. If you haven't had bees for a season, let's take everybody who's had bees for a season first. And then if haven't had bees for a season, there's still room. If we can get enough experienced people, maybe you can follow along. But it really helps if you've had bees for a season. Any thoughts on that? We just go ahead and give a date. Email me this weekend, okay, by this weekend. And if nobody has a time they really want to start, we're getting close to May. We're already getting there. We got to get started on this no matter what the weather. And if the first batch of queens doesn't get a chance to go out and really mate well, last year was the year of the drone laying queen. I know of 4. Right, Wade? And let's see, is Carol on here? Because Carol was reminding me she was one of them. I was one of them. And there's somebody else that I in person saw and somebody else that over the phone, I told them what they had. They sent me the cell phone pictures. I am now a pro at an expert at identifying drone laying queen comb. And it's not super easy. It's not the popcorn pattern of the laying worker. It looks a little funny and it takes you a while to realize what's wrong. Okay, email me or I'm going to end up just picking the best dates I can. But if anybody's available during the week, that is the biggest thing we need. Anything else people want to share about their hives? Oh, the drones getting kicked out. Somebody said they saw drones on the landing board. Was that you, Micah, getting kicked out or just on the landing board? Somebody put that in the chat.
Eli,
Yes.
that was me. I did have drones. They're mine. They were going in and out.
Okay, they were okay. They weren't being thrown out for reindeers.
Oh, no, they're new. They were shiny spanking new. And there were a lot of them. So I did a quick OAV treatment because I'm trying to see if I can catch in on the new information with the Varroa staying on them their first 3 days. So I did a 4 gram, you didn't hear that, OAV treatment, and I'm going to check my board. My board was clean, my bottom board. So I'll check that in a few days and see what I've got. see if I have a bunch of dead mites.
Yeah, and 2, right? You do 2 close together, like 5 days apart. You don't assume the first OAV makes the mites drop. You do
right.
it.
Yeah, I'll do another one in a few days, and it should work out because I think I got another warm day coming up. Not really warm, but warm enough that they will be active. They were very active today, and I had a lot of orientation flight, and a lot of people were out.
Yeah, it's getting encouraging. Okay, on the comments, let's see. I know there's comments we didn't really attend. Oh, Chris has pictures of a hive autopsy. Ooh, we like looking at bee pictures. You want to stop recording first? We can stop recording. I'm okay with that. Everybody okay with that?